on Friday, we got the piece of news that everybody was expecting, but it still hit on Friday, and it is worth discussing here. An NBA Finals that everybody anticipated before it even happened would be one of the lowest rated we've ever seen. Well, so far, the prognostications are very much on point. 8.91 viewers on ABC for Game 1.
Million.
What did I say, billion?
No, you just said 8.91
8.91, okay.
It's like, that might be a little low.
Not by much, though. 8.91 million viewers. Yes, million with an M, not close to 9 total. But, yes, 8.91 million viewers on ABC.
More people watch than are justices on the Supreme Court.
I guess so, yeah.
I was the 0.91 person.
Okay, yeah. Well, all right, well. If it is 8.91 million and not just 8.91, if it's 8.91 million, it is the lowest rated Game 1 NBA of the NBA Finals since Nielsen began tracking ratings in 1988. That does exclude the 2020 and 2021 NBA Finals that were, one was in a bubble. The other one was kind of on a weird schedule. But J-Mart, the NBA Finals are as little watched as people were anticipating. I have a take on who is to blame and how we got here, and it's not just because we have small markets, but I'll go ahead and give you the floor first.
I think I know where you're going to go with that, but I'll wait for you to say it.
I can just do it right now. You want me to do it?
Well, I'll say one thing quickly, and that is, yes, and I had Mark Bedine on last week, and he said kind of the same thing. He was just kind of like, yeah, I know there's going to be discourse about how the ratings are going to be down, and we all knew they were going to be down. And yes, small markets has something to do with it. If you had the Knicks against the Thunder, we would have had a completely different argument here. And it's not just because it's the Pacers. It's because one of the teams is not playing in a big market. But at the very least, if you would have had Knicks and OKC, you would have had Knicks against the reigning MVP and the consensus best team in the league, pretty much all year round. But it's not. There's not much to analyze because it's exactly what people expected. You were hoping that the series was going to be good on the floor, but you knew that from a ratings perspective, this was not going to be L.A., New York, Boston, Philadelphia, Boston, Houston, anything crazy like that. So now you say what you were going to say because, again, I think I know where you're headed here.
Yeah, I think the people to blame are Adam Silver.
Yep.
And the media stakeholders. And, you referenced the highest paid person in media not knowing how to break down Tyrese Halliburton other than to call him a modern-day Robert Horry. And I think that is a reflection of how we got here is, we mentioned a few times Olden Polynice was in last week, and, he brought up a point that I think I knew. I definitely knew, but, hadn't necessarily put together. But this is not the byproduct of Tyrese Halliburton not being a superstar. He's a superstar. It's not a byproduct of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander not being a superstar. I don't even think it's a byproduct of two small market teams because we have seen in previous years the Cleveland Cavaliers rate really well. Other teams from other smaller markets. This is a byproduct of the NBA choosing year over year over year to stuff LeBron James down our throat, to stuff the Lakers down our throat. Even when LeBron wasn't on the Lakers and they weren't good, they were stuffed down our throat. And I understand, to be clear, that you, of course, have to feature certain teams and certain players because you do have to give the audience what they want. But I'll go back to something, Jason, that we talked about 5 months ago now. I went back and looked it up this morning because I remembered it, but I wanted to make sure I was correct. Saturday, January 25th. What was that day? Well, it was the first Saturday without any football since August of the previous year. So in other words, we got a full slate of college football, September, October, November, December. Then we obviously got the college football playoff. We got the NFL playoffs, which had back-to-back Saturdays on opening of the opening 2 weekends of the playoffs. Saturday, December 25th. First Saturday without any NFL football or any football in 6 months. They put Lakers-Warriors on their prime time game. And I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm not saying they shouldn't have. But what I am saying is when you continue at 40 years old to put all of the eggs in the LeBron James basket, You continue, and listen, Steph is still a great player. LeBron's a great player, too. This is not a criticism of LeBron necessarily.
Right.
But Steph's 37 years old. I mean, we're not talking about Steph at 31. We're talking about 37 years old. And so I just sit there and say, when you've tried to force feed us bad teams and aging players, when we have so many dynamic, interesting young stars and storylines, this is what you get. This is the byproduct, and this is how you end up with the lowest rated game one ever, because you decided not to talk about Tyrese Halliburton until the Eastern Conference Finals, and even then you just told us he wasn't a superstar. That's how we got here, and that's who's to blame.
Yep, look, that's exactly where I thought you were going, and you're 100% right. It is the league's job to market its teams. It is the league's job to make it superstars. Yes, they have to back it up on the floor. It's not pro wrestling. You can't pick and choose. But when you see somebody getting some traction, when you see somebody starting to show out, you start to showcase them. And I saw this week, I think it was Alan Hahn said on TV, that LeBron James is still the face of the NBA. And at first I was upset by the comment, and then I thought, no, he's right. You know why? Because Adam Silver won't allow it any other way. Mm-hmm. LeBron James is still the face of the NBA. And that's a huge indictment on the NBA. And to your point, and agreeing with you, that's no slight on LeBron James' ability, even in 2025. It's that he should not be that anymore. Like, this should be sort of his, his retirement years. And I don't mean him, like, fully retiring, but this is like, at this point now, he should just kind of be enjoying this. It shouldn't be on his shoulders. There should be other guys. And I think there are a ton of hungry young players in that league that are really good that have not been given a chance to show what they can do. I mean, think about like Banchero in Orlando. And they're getting really good all of a sudden. But nobody knows this because they're not being pitched. Sacramento a couple years ago became one of the best stories in the NBA, but it wasn't being talked about enough because it wasn't in a big market and it wasn't the Lakers and it wasn't Golden State. And that's kind of the way that it's been. Kevin Durant should not be getting a lot of the press anymore. He really shouldn't be, but he still is because he's a made guy. This is how you destroy yourself, because if you don't plan for the future, then the league can never outlive you. Like, you don't just set up a league so that it's still there when you die. You set up a league so that it is flourishing and hopefully better after the fact when you've moved on. And they have stagnated because they've just stayed in the same lane for so long, and they've let player after player after player. They bet on one guy, and they got it wrong, and that was Zion Williamson. Outside of that, it has been the exact same guys for a decade now, and with no slight on them, Steph is as most must-watch as you can find. But the problem is, I think you need to use a Steph Curry and use a LeBron James and use even a Kevin Durant or whoever it is that you want to include in this conversation, Giannis Antetokounmpo, whoever it is. You want to use them to create new stars. And that means that when the Lakers play against the Magic, you pub the heck out of Paolo Banchero. When you've got them against Oklahoma City, if you still want to feature the Lakers because you know they're a ratings grabber, then really make it seem like the Thunder matter, because they can become stars on the floor against your existing stars. They're good enough on the floor to do that if you don't kneecap them all the way in the run-up to do it. And then they get to the finals, and they pitch this kind of a rating, and it's, yep, told you they weren't stars. Now, that's on you. That's not on them. That's on you. Like, I'll tell you one thing about the Pacers, and Halliburton particularly. Halliburton has a tremendous personality.
Tremendous.
WWE has figured that out because they continue to use him. He has done the research and the homework. He knows the storylines. He can cut a promo. He's got, that kind of geeky side and all that. But that's a dude that has personality. That's a dude that has some charisma about him. There's other guys that have natural charisma about them, but they have to actually be given an opportunity with the camera in their face as opposed to in the face of LeBron James trying to tell us whether or not he's going to pick up his player option or not.
Yeah, it was funny about 2-3 weeks ago, and we can wrap on this, get to DeSager in a minute, but I remember something happened. It must have been right around the time that the Lakers got eliminated, and it really struck me. I think, I was just watching all these games, and I'm like, dude, Shea's awesome, and Jalen Williams is awesome, and Tyrese Halliburton's awesome, and Jalen Brunson, even though I know they just lost in the previous series, but Jalen Brunson's awesome. And it's like there's so many good young stars, and I'll blame Adam Silver, but I'll also say, like, LeBron, at this point, as crazy, as weird as it sounds, I think LeBron would actually be doing the league a favor by retiring, because I just feel like he's kind of this black cloud that hangs over the league. You and I have talked about it. I don't believe that the Lakers are really a contender. I don't believe that they're a player or two away. But as long as he's in this league, they're going to keep talking about him. And it's just, I don't know. I feel like
the league can't move on until
Yes.
he leaves.
Exactly. And it wears down the conversation. And like I said, there's just so many good, young, interesting players. And it feels like they're not getting enough of a spotlight.